Hey guys, Takuyasugi here. Going to be doing a review today of the game Beat Cop. This is a game on Steam. So it's kind of a retro 80s whole, bit graphics kind of game. And it's a pretty interesting game. I had my eye on it, and luckily I got a copy. And doing a review here on it today. And I played through the game. I've gotten like one ending so far, and I'm going to be playing it more and more. But I think that's enough for me to get the gist of a review at the moment. And it's a fun game. So we're going to start with the story. We're going to do this by categories. So we're going to do story, gameplay, graphics, sound, and longevity and replayability. So the story in Beat Cop, it's a typical kind of 80s policeman kind of story. There's corruption. The main story of the game is that you've stopped a robbery in this senator's apartment that you see in the intro here, and you're accused suddenly of taking diamonds and something else from the apartment. So that something else is what really comes into play pretty much, and is what's causing you problems. So and of course, during the course of the game, you're expounding on this main story. You're learning ins and outs and what's going on. You're learning why everything is what it is. But there's also a lot of side stories. There's a lot of side stories with the mafia, with the crew, with the people in the game. There's random events that occur. I don't know if they're completely random. It seems like they're pretty much set events, but you occasionally get little tidbits of the story, even from shop owners. So the story is really played out very well. I would say that's a definite 5 out of 5 on the story. It's really good. It's a typical story, but the way it's handled is just really masterful, and I really enjoy the narrative in expulsion, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what I'm saying. How they expound upon the story in the game. It's very good. So as we move on to the gameplay of the game, we're on day 7 here. The gameplay, I would have to give it a 3 out of 5. The gameplay is pretty enjoyable for a while, and then you're giving these parking tickets a whole lot, or you're just arresting someone in the same fashion. You're pretty much going back and forth down the street. It's your beat. That's the whole purpose of the game, and you're a beat cop. You used to be a detective, now you're a beat cop. But yeah, the gameplay involves giving tickets for lights, for tires, for parking violations, and they're not that hard to spot, so it's not too bad. Sometimes you have to dig deeper into the whole gameplay aspect when it comes to car models and car colors, but that's kind of far in between the normal mundane parking ticketing. And there's also where you actually search a car occasionally. Usually you have to search a car illegally, and then the gameplay involves into like a little puzzle shuffle kind of game, which is kind of annoying. I didn't really like that part of the game, but overall it's a little bit repetitive. I think you'll be hearing a lot of people say it's kind of repetitive. You have to juggle your stamina a little bit. It's not too hard to juggle your stamina. It's kind of just an annoyance itself. You've got towing, and there's like only one tow truck in the whole neighborhood you get to use, so you have to wait for the next towing truck if you want to tow multiple cars, and that comes to be an annoyance in one mission in particular. Other gameplay, you do get to use your gun, but it's also few and far in between, and the gunplay mechanic is kind of awkward. It's kind of clunky. I got lucky. Maybe I got lucky with one incident where I used my gun, but it wasn't too bad. Overall, the gameplay, it is repetitive. There's not much to it, but that being said, it's acceptable. I mean, this is your whole purpose. This is what you are. You're a beat cop. You also have the bribe system. You also have the whole doing favors for the mafias and stuff. So moving on to graphics. So the graphics of the game, they're definitely fitted around a whole retro style. So this isn't a next-gen graphics kind of game, but it does graphics very well. I mean, It's no next-gen experience or anything, but it does have some eye-popping elements to it. This street is very busy. It's very, you see birds flying around. You see fires in the background. You see traffic on the move. You see cars parking. You see people walking along. You see cats. You see people in the buildings doing things, and it's very entertaining. It's very entertaining, and you just kind of get used to it after a time. The stores all look pretty well fleshed out. They look like normal stores, the stores you would kind of expect, except the dry cleaner. I felt like the dry cleaner was not really looking like a dry cleaner. So you can see the dry cleaner back there in the red sign. That did not look anything like a dry cleaner to me, especially on the side of a donut building. It was kind of strange. I didn't really like that design on that. So yeah, game graphically is very nice for a retro game. I couldn't really ask for much more when it comes to retro style graphics. They really pushed the limit of that and did a pretty good job, I would say. Did a pretty good job. So I would give that a 4 out of 5. So when it came to sound in the game, I feel like the sound production is really top notch. It was a pretty enjoyable experience when it came to the sound. The cars, you got the sound effects for the cars. They all sound appropriate. You got things going on in the background in the buildings. You got people listening to boom boxes. You can tell there's one guy jamming in the window with heavy metal occasionally. You got dudes listening to the rap on the crew side of town. And you got the whole 80s vibe going on with the soundtrack, and you don't really hear the soundtrack much when you're on the beat. You'll hear it kind of in between, transitions from day to day, or while you're talking to your lieutenant or whoever for your daily briefing. It's got a good sound. Got good sound quality. It feels very good. The sound is all very well done in the game. And so finally we come to longevity or replayability. So the game, it does last a good while, and you do feel a little bit compelled to do things differently. You can side with the mafia more so than the crew. You can be a stand-up cop and really, go true blue. You can go with the crew. You can do drugs. You can hire prostitutes and do some lewd activities. And there's the occasional random ending, so I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I got the kind of random ending at one point, I feel like, and it's just kind of weird that I suddenly got a game over on one ending, and I was not expecting that. But there's multiple endings. There's multiple ways to proceed through the game, and by that respect, there's multiple ways to play the game. So when it comes to longevity and replayability, I would give it a solid 5 out of 5. There's a lot of compulsion to get those different endings and try different things, and you feel like you can play the game a little bit differently through several playthroughs, and I feel like that's a great thing. I always love that when a game gives you a lot of incentives to play differently, play how you want to play, not just like on rails. That's why I kind of grew out of love with JRPGs in the early 2000s, because I ended up playing stuff like Knights of the Old Republic, where you had a lot of different narrative options and stuff, and this game gives you that. It gives you narrative options. It gives you multiple ways to play, and I do enjoy and appreciate that in the game, and Beat Cop definitely does give you that. So good stuff with the longevity and replayability. So for my final thoughts on the game, I would overall give it a 4 out of 5. I feel like if they ever did a sequel, they could definitely improve upon the game. I wouldn't say it's a perfect game. I feel like the gameplay could have been a little bit better. That was definitely kind of the weakest part, but it feels like more of a story-driven narrative kind of game, and it's all well done. The production on the graphics and the sound is all extremely well done. It's masterfully done, and the story, if they just, they could go to the 90s, they could go to the 70s, they could go to the 60s. Heck, they could go back in the old days, like the 20s or 30s or whatever, and they can make this kind of gameplay style work. But if they kind of made it a little bit more, or made it a little bit less repetitive, I feel like it would kind of put it over the edge there. But they do it well. They do it well. They do pretty much everything well. The gameplay just gets a little bit repetitive, and you know that might not bother a lot of people, but it might not bother some people, but it bothers a lot of people from what I noticed. But their other strengths more than compensate for that repetitiveness, and it's pretty well done. It's a great game. I would say it's a great game, so solid 4 out of 5. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the review of Beat Cop here today. You know, be sure to pick it up on Steam if you look interested in it, because I haven't shown you nearly any of the game here. I mean, I just did a little bit of gameplay here during the course of this video, and it's a good experience to play through, and it's relatively cheap on Steam as well. So be sure to check it out someday if you get the chance. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.